Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create an order just so we can get some royalties calculated. I'll go to the order screen, I'll create an order, I'll need to create a customer. I can either click this Browse Edit Customer link right here, where I look at the contact screen and I can sell to the author, but hey, let's give the guy a break. Let's go ahead and sell him some books, or sell some books for him. So I'm going to create a customer, customer 1. If that customer had addresses, billing or shipping addresses, it would have pulled that in. I'm going to go ahead and sell 1 digital, 1 paperback. I'll go ahead and put in no discount on that, but I'll go ahead and put in a 10% discount on the paperback. If I wanted to, I can put in the tax rate. If that customer can also have a default tax rate. So for example, if I had put in a 5% tax rate for that customer, then this order would have defaulted to 5% here. In addition, I can go ahead and put in my shipping, my handling charges. If you want to track ship method, you can enter in shipping methods. It's not required. Same thing with tracking number. And then terms, you can have due upon receipt, net 30 or net 60. Notice up here the order date defaults to today when I created this order, and so does the ship date. The due date, because of these terms, is due upon receipt. If I change this to 30, then the due date will change and go 30 days out. I'm going to leave that as due upon receipt. I'm going to leave my order date alone. If I want to pay the order, I can also mark it as paid by selecting my payment type. And as soon as I do that, it's going to automatically default to the full amount on the order. If I had sales commissions or salespeople, I could enter that information here. I'll go ahead and hit Apply Changes. And now it's saying, hey, this order is fully closed. Do you want to close it? You may. The only reason you wouldn't want to close it is for some reason it hasn't really been paid, or you haven't shipped it out yet, so you might want to keep it open. But until you actually close this order, it will not generate any royalties. That's because the Dashbook kind of considers it to still be pending. You still might be in the middle of adding things to it. So if that's the case, you would click no, and then you would be able to come back to this order later without it affecting your royalties in the meantime. I'm going to go ahead and click yes to close this order. Click OK, close it. Now real quick, I want to show you one thing about orders. If you go into the order screen, it defaults to open orders only. Now we know we have an order, but we can't see it. If I open up this pull down, go down to all orders, there's my order. It's been invoiced. Its current status is closed, which is why we didn't see it before. Now another thing is, on the order down the right edge, these are links to different reports that can be used from right here instead of actually going to the report screen. For example, if I click on royalty, here's all the royalties that have been calculated for this particular order. And it shows I've got my gross, my discounts, the net, which is what's the royalty is going to be calculated on. So 20% of $7.19 is $1.44 when I do a little bit of rounding. Add these two together, total royalty liability is $3.44. Dashbook is going to keep track of all the precision in your royalty calculations. However, when it comes time to calculate a payment, it's going to round to the nearest penny. I can also pull up an invoice, and it's going to ask me a few questions here. I'm going to leave this alone for now. Click OK. And so here's my invoice for this order. If I had filled out my own billing address information, it would show here. The customer's billing address information would show down here. And then this is the payment history for this particular order. Okay, I have a slightly different report called the order, which this is more of an internal. This isn't, the invoice would be something you might send out to the customer. The order is something that you might have internally, especially if you were actually had a fulfillment department where they were actually shipping out the product and need to know what to use. I'll close my order. Now that we have our order entered and it's calculating royalties, let's go to the All Royalty Holder Contact screen. We have Author 1. Let's go to the Royalties tab for Author 1. And once again, we see our quantity sold is 2, our royalties accrued is 3.4382. Now, on some reports and some screens, especially ones where we're talking about paying the author, it will show this to the nearest penny. However, Dashbook is keeping the full precision on the royalties accrued, but when it calculates payments, it's rounding to the nearest penny. Over here, I have a payment threshold that defaults to 0, but I can set this, for example, to $25, in which case Dashbook would only calculate a payment if to the author if all his titles for the period adds up to more than the threshold. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 0. I'm going to apply changes to make sure that's there. And let's take a look at the royalty summary report. I'm going to go ahead and set it for the current month. Now, in most cases, when you're running your royalties, you're probably going to be interested in setting it for the prior quarter or possibly even 2 quarters back. So if I wanted Q1, I'd set this for prior quarter, and that way it would grab all royalties. My royalty period for the report would be January 1st to March 31st. However, I can set a custom date range, and a custom date range, then I can go back and grab Q4, or if I wanted to grab the second half of 2013, that would work. For now, however, I need to go ahead and use current month because we don't have any sales except for on yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It'll generate the report. I've got my activities from June 1st to June 30th for Author 1. My beginning balance was 0. Here's my items sold, my accruals. I don't have any payments for the period for this title, and here's my balance as of the end date for this title. Then my period totals, I've got royalties accrued, advances, distributions, payment threshold is 0, so my amount due as of 6/30/2014 is $3.44. If I'd had multiple titles here, then each of them would have been shown separately, and they would have, then their combined totals would have shown up down here. Now, you can send out this report to the royalty holder just like this if you so choose. However, you can also go and create payments in Dashbook, in which case those will then be reflected on the report. So if I go to Make Payments, I get the Pay Royalty screen, and this royalties due as of controls what date am I calculating, am I trying to calculate a payment for, because that's going to change over time. So I'm going to set it for royalties due as of, in this case, 6/30/2014. Most of the time when you're running your royalties, you're probably going to want this to be set at the end of the last period. So if I was running royalties for Q1 right now, then I would set this to 3/31/2014. My pay period date, notice, changes to match the royalties due as of. I'll get back to that in just a moment. And my dispersed date is set to today because this is when I'm actually paying. Now, the difference between the disbursement date and the pay period date is I may be paying today, but I really want this payment to show up in the report that I run for Q1. So I would leave the pay period date as 3/31, have my disbursement date set to there. But for purposes of today's example, I'm going to put this back up to 6/30. My pay period date 6/30 and my disbursement date is 6/30. And now you can see that it's calculated that, oh, for book 1 I owe $3.44. The amount to credit is going to be the actual payment amount. I click apply payments. It's gone now because my balance as of 6:30 is now 0. So I'm going to click OK, come back to the royalties tab where I have my payment. My payment type is cash. If I so choose, I can change and I can record it as something a little bit different. There's my pay period date, my disbursement date, my title. If I had had multiple titles, then there would have been a payment record right here for each one of them. Now when I go look at my royalty summary report, I've got my beginning balance, my items sold, but now I've got distributions paid for both the title and for the period, and my due is $0. So it's really up to you as to whether you want to create payments in Dashbook and you want this due amount to show as 0, or if you would rather not have the payments and then have a number right there. That wraps up this example, and I hope you have fun with it. Thank you.